of goes with number 13, but I have to be very specific. Okay. A lot of buyers don't understand what concessions are. And knowing about closing costs and things like that. Okay. You can't ask for concessions. You just can't. If there's no other offers, and let me make that caveat straight across the board. If you've done your homework and know you're the only offer, represent your buyer to the fullest extent. Okay. That's not even a question. But when we're dealing with multiple offer scenarios, that's the thing, concessions. People think that, well, I want to ask for home warranty. I need to ask them. I don't want to pay full price. There's so many things. So concessions are one thing, but number 13 is repairs. And that's one of the hardest things today, because if you know that there's 8 or 9 other offers, the sellers are in a very luxurious position to not have to do much. Okay. And so this is something that I just do with my clients. Okay. I anticipate the sellers aren't going to do a lot. And I kind of prepare my clients that, look, we're going to ask for whatever is needed and we're going to do our best, but you need to understand that the likelihood of them doing a lot is not going to be great. You still have to ask and hope for the best, but letting them know that, no concessions, beating out another offer. It's like, they know if you cancel on them, they're just going to get that there's 8 people behind us. So getting them on the plane of, if there's something serious, absolutely. But just know that there's no guarantees of your typical repairs being done. You know what I mean? So kind of number 12 and 13 go together. No concessions, given the situation, but then prepare for repairs. Any thoughts on that, Keith, or anything? Yeah.
Well, no, but you bring up a good point. It's common sense in a market that's competitive. The seller's less inclined to give concessions. The only thing I would say on that is this. If there are safety issues and things like that, they're going to have to fix those regardless. Okay? And that needs to be pointed out to the seller too, because it may not be to their advantage to cancel the deal if they're not willing to get some things fixed, because it's going to come up again anyway. And remember something else, we also do appraisals. Right. And so if the appraiser notes a safety issue, if it's an FHA appraisal, the FHA appraisal stays. Of course, not too many FHA loans being done, but it stays with the property for quite, 4 months. So, you have to look at these things and make an intelligent decision about which things you're going to ask for. And, I just want you to know, as loan officers, we have the ability to kind of back you up on these things. What I mean by that is this. When you tell your buyer something, sometimes they may think, well, he's just telling me that because he doesn't want to have to go back and it's blah, 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 it's a hassle, and he just wants to get the deal closed. So as a loan officer, I always try to support what I know they're going to hear from the agent. So what I tell my clients is this. When you do an inspection, remember what the inspector is going to do. He's looking for everything. What you should focus on is safety issues and big ticket items. So when I bought my house, it said, the gas line going to the air handler doesn't have a grommet in there to current code. Okay, well, the code was built. I'm not going to ask them to fix that. So I share that story with my clients to say, look, be reasonable, right? In this market, though, you're right. You got to really be reasonable. You're going to get nothing. One other comment on that, again, if you're going to be getting concessions, talk to the loan officer and ask them how much room you have for closing costs and prepays. Right? Because we don't talk about corrections, because then they have to be done before the loan's closed. So it's always a seller concession towards closing costs and prepays. And you don't know how much there is. What if they did a interest rate where they're getting back closing costs, to help them out? So always have that conversation, loan officer, before you finalize those numbers.
Cool.
It's helpful, really helpful.
Absolutely. One thing I forgot to bring up with the close of escrow that I mentioned with you earlier in talking was the difference between cash and a loan. Ultimately, in Keith's case, for example, is cash typically closes in a week to 2 weeks, and his loan is 3 weeks. So the conversation you're really having with that seller or the seller's agent is, what's it worth your buyer or your seller for 2 more weeks to work with my client? What's it really worth, right? And they might have to pay a little bit extra, $1,500, $2,000, whatever it is for that couple weeks. But that's all it really boils down to is time. And what's that time worth to your client or to their client, all things being equal, right? And that puts it in much greater perspective, because cash isn't always necessarily king. It's what am I going to end up net in my pocket when I walk away from the sale is what really a lot of sellers just really ultimately care about. And if it's a 2-week difference, so be it, you know, or if a person needs a 60-day close, that's more beneficial to them. So cash doesn't mean anything to them. You know what I mean? So really kind of break it down in that conversation better. All right, wrap it up here. We got number 14 and 15 go together, and it goes together with